Welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever really stopped to think about, how you breathe when you sleep?
Probably not, right? It feels automatic.
Exactly. But here's something wild. Humans are apparently the only mammals who can actually consciously choose to breathe through our nose or our mouth.
Hmm.
And well, what if choosing mouth breathing, especially when you're asleep, is doing way more harm than you might think?
That's exactly what we're getting into today. It's our mission for this deep dive.
Okay.
We're going to unpack the, say, surprising dangers of mouth breathing. We'll look at mouth taping. It's getting pretty popular.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Right? And we'll explain why it's really not a magic bullet. It's part of a much bigger picture for, optimal health and good sleep.
So we're diving into the sources you've pulled together.
Yep, everything from the core science behind it to some really practical tips, all aimed at helping you get a truly restorative night's sleep.
Okay, let's start there then. The core problem.
Yeah.
Sleeping with your mouth open. It sounds simple. Maybe a dry mouth, maybe some snoring.
Yeah, that's what most people think.
But what else is going on? What are the deeper impacts the sources talk about?
It's actually far more significant than just dryness and apparently quite widespread.
Really?
Yeah, the information we reviewed suggests that mouth breathing, especially during sleep, can directly hit your immune system.
Wow. Okay.
And beyond that, it causes something called oral dysbiosis.
Oral dysbiosis. What's that?
It's basically a major disruption of your mouth's microbiome. Your whole bacterial ecosystem gets thrown off.
Okay, that doesn't sound good.
And it doesn't stop there. The sources highlight it can also lead to metabolic dysbiosis.
Metabolic.
Yeah, an imbalance in your body's metabolism. And even endotoxemia.
Endo what?
Endotoxemia, it means bacterial toxins getting into your bloodstream systemically. So yeah, it's not just about your mouth at all. It impacts, well, your whole body.
Wow, okay. That's pretty serious chain reaction. All from just breathing through your mouth at night.
It seems so, yes.
So, given these pretty widespread issues, what solutions are people looking at, and where does this mouth caping thing fit in?
Right. Mouth taping has definitely emerged as a direct response.
Okay.
The technical term is just using a specific kind of tape, to keep your mouth closed while you sleep.
And the goal is?
The ideal function is simply to keep the mouth sealed, preferably all night long. That way you're sort of forced to breathe through your nose.
Makes sense. And what about the tape itself? Are they all the same? Or are there things listeners should know?
Oh, definitely not all the same. The material really matters. You've got different qualities, different sizes, different materials. They offer, varying degrees of flexibility.
Flexibility, right.
And it's not just a stick it on and forget it kind of deal.
Right.
There are some critical things to think about before you even try it.
Like what?
Well, for one, it's absolutely not for everyone. The guidance is pretty clear. If you have claustrophobia, you'll likely feel suffocated. You'll just rip it right off.
Okay, that's a big one.
Huge. But maybe even more fundamental is how well your nasal passages actually work.
Ah, the blocked nose issue.
Exactly. If your nose is blocked, trying to use mouth tape is, well, the sources say unviable. It just won't work.
Right.
And that leads us straight into a deeper conversation about nasal obstruction itself.
Yeah, you hear that a lot, don't you? Oh, I can't breathe through my nose. It's always blocked.
All the time.
But the research you looked at suggests that actual physical blockages, like a deviated septum from an injury or some specific malformation, that's actually pretty rare.
Quite rare, apparently. And that really shifts the perspective, doesn't it?
It does. How so?
Well, it challenges how we usually approach nasal blockage. Think about what some might call the surgical dilemma.
Okay.
There's sometimes a tendency to just remove things that cause problems, like tonsils, maybe even the gallbladder, instead of figuring out why they aren't working right.
Right. Treat the symptom, not the cause.
Kind of. And the material emphasizes that tonsils, for example, they're defense glands, especially against, say, the effects of ultra-processed foods. The goal should be to restore their function, not just take them out.
Interesting.
And then there's the inflammation of the nasal glands themselves, the things that actually block your breathing. Often, this is seen as an intervention related to what the sources call epigenetic habits.
Epigenetic habits, like lifestyle stuff.
Exactly. Especially diet, how our choices affect our gene expression, and in this case, our nasal health.
Huh?
And then you have the whole issue with nasal sprays. Lots of people get hooked on those.
Oh, yeah. They seem to work instantly.
They do, temporarily. They work by constricting the glands. But the problem is they also inhibit your immune system.
Okay, so it's a trade-off.
A big one. The real aim, according to the sources, should be to let your immune system normalize your nasal flow naturally. which, heads up, can take maybe 2 to 3 weeks.
2 to 3 weeks. Wow. Okay, so patience is needed. It's not an overnight fix if you ditch the spray.
Definitely not.
And this connects to what you call the allergy myth, right? Because allergies are often blamed for blocked noses.
Ah, yes, the allergy myth. This is where it gets really interesting.
Lay it on us.
Okay, so the studies we looked at really deconstruct how we usually think about allergies.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Pollen, dust mites, pet dander. These things have been around longer than humans, or they can actually be good for our immune health.
So the problem isn't the pollen itself.
The material suggests the allergy is often actually a disruption in our own immune system, usually caused by lifestyle, not the allergen itself.
Could you give an example?
Sure. Like, say you eat pizza and beer, then some super refined chocolate later, and then you wake up stuffy and blame the spring pollen.
Uh-oh. Hitting close to home.
Maybe for some. Or think about late-night screen time combined with a really heavy, hypercaloric, hyper-refined dinner, and then blaming dust mites for your blocked nose and terrible sleep.
Right. It's easier to blame the mites.
Much easier. But it's a stark reminder that proper sleep actually needs more energy than being awake. So these habits hit hard. Your immune system is basically going, what am I supposed to do with all this junk?
Okay. Message received. Lifestyle matters. A lot.
Hugely. So putting it all together, mouth taping can be helpful in this context, especially if someone has, say, poor muscle control around the jaw, the temporomandibular joint, or ATM, which makes them sleep with their mouth hanging open.
Right, that makes sense. And speaking of muscle control, or lack thereof, what about bruxism? Teeth grinding, clenching. Many people deal with that. How does that fit in?
Good question. For bruxism, the sources mention something called discharge plates. These are specific types of mouth guards.
Okay.
Importantly, they are not relaxation plates. The sources clarify that bruxism is generally seen as a neurological thing, quite hard to just stop.
Right.
And a discharge plate can sometimes act almost like a teether, potentially even increasing the clenching for some people.
Oh, wow. Not what you'd want.
Definitely not. And similarly, with mouth tape, if it's not good quality or applied right, that reflex to open the mouth, maybe during bruxism, can just peel the tape right off.
Okay. So it really hammers home the point you made earlier. Mouth taping isn't a standalone fix.
Exactly.
It has to be part of a bigger picture. You can't just slap on a device and hope for the best.
Precisely. To get proper nasal breathing and genuinely restorative sleep, you need to build the foundation.
Which involves?
Well, lifestyle stuff, mainly. Diet is huge, focusing on anti-inflammatory, hypoallergenic foods. The sources even mention focusing on this for about 3 weeks to really see changes in the nasal mucosa.
3 weeks again. Okay.
Yeah, consistency matters. And then there's this idea of romanticizing sleep.
Romanticize sleep, what does that mean?
It means creating a consistent, positive sleep environment, making it something you look forward to, something you protect.
Ah, I like that. So practical things.
Yeah, like ideal room temperature.
Yeah.
Around 18 to 22 degrees Celsius. That's 64 to 72 Fahrenheit.
Okay. Cool, but not cold.
Right. Comfortable clothes, cotton is good. Soft sheets, not too hot, not too cold.
Got it.
The room should be well ventilated and, crucially, completely dark. Even small amounts of light can mess with your sleep cycles.
Darkness. Check. What else?
And then snoring, which mouth taping can help with.
Right.
The material points out how much snoring really disturbs other people's sleep, even if they're in another room. For light sleepers, it can make rest impossible without earplugs, which, by the way, aren't generally highly recommended either.
It really is all connected, isn't it? It's not just one single thing. It's this whole web of habits in your environment.
It really is.
It makes you realize how many small choices pile up.
Absolutely. And when you do decide to try mouth tape, the research gives some pointers.
Okay, like what kind to choose?
Yeah. Look for elastic materials. You want some movement possible. And hypoallergenic is key. You don't want skin irritation keeping you awake. Quality matters, too, to avoid that annoying sticky residue in the morning. And for men with beards or mustaches, obviously getting it to stick well is an extra challenge.
Right. Good point. Are there other tools besides tape?
Yes, there are complementary things to support nasal breathing, like nasal strips.
Oh, yeah, those little sticky things.
Exactly. Rigid strips that stick on the outside of your nose to physically pull the nostrils open a bit. Magnetic strips work on a similar idea.
Do they help with the internal inflammation, though?
Ah, good question. No, it's important to understand. These help open the nostrils, the entrance. They don't clear up inflamed glands inside the rhinitis, that chronic inflammation.
So if you have rhinitis,
Taping your mouth shut isn't the first step. You need to tackle the inflammation. Otherwise, you really can't breathe through your nuttles properly.
okay, and how do you actually get used to wearing the tape? It sounds a bit weird at first.
It can be. The guidance suggests starting slow. Maybe use very flexible bands for the first couple of months.
Flexible bands, okay.
And there are ways to adjust gradually, like maybe peeling one side slightly before you sleep, or cutting the tape partly through. Some tapes even come with little pre-cut lines for easier removal if you panic.
Ah, like an escape hatch.
Sort of. And some tapes are designed to allow your lips to be just slightly apart, which could be a good intermediate step for some people.
Got it. Gradual adaptation.
Exactly. And we absolutely have to circle back to oral health here.
Right, the oral microbiota disruption you mentioned earlier.
Yes. Sleeping with an open mouth causes, and I quote, absolute disruption to it.
Okay, so besides keeping the mouth closed, are there other specific tips from the sources for looking after your mouth's ecosystem during sleep?
One interesting suggestion was brushing your teeth with coconut oil before using your regular toothpaste.
Coconut oil. Why?
The idea is it helps improve the bacterial balance, sort of priming the environment before the toothpaste.
Huh.
They also stress having healthy dental work, like no old amalgam fillings, making sure any implants haven't expired, because even those things can subtly affect your oral environment.
Wow. Okay, so bringing this all together,
Yeah.
we understand the dangers. We see mouth taping as one tool, but only within this bigger, holistic approach.
Yeah.
What are the main takeaways? What are the big benefits if you get this right?
Well, the big promises are pretty significant. First, yes, you will stop snoring, or at least reduce it dramatically, which is great for you and anyone sleeping near you.
Definitely a plus.
But more fundamentally, consistent nasal breathing and closed mouth sleep allow for proper brain detoxification during sleep.
Brain detox. Okay, that sounds important.
Very. And it helps maintain a truly active and healthy immune system. These aren't small things. They're foundational changes to your overall well-being.
Okay, we have covered a lot today, from the kind of hidden dangers of mouth breathing to this nuanced look at mouth taping and really connecting it all to these broader, holistic sleep habits. It's clear it's not just about sticking tape on your face. It's about understanding and maybe tweaking one of our most basic bodily functions.
It really is. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you get ready for sleep tonight, just consider, when was the last time you consciously thought about the mechanics of how you breathe while you're asleep?
Probably never.
Right. So how might just a small change in that fundamental act ripple outwards, affecting everything from your immune system to how much energy you have tomorrow? What tiny shift could you make tonight to start, romanticizing your sleep and embracing the power of breathing through your nose?